Start going. Shavua Tov, everyone. Thank you for coming at this late hour. You're probably wondering why I gathered you here today. All right. So tonight's shir is Sichos Haran, and the sicha today is more of a technical sicha, and we'll see if we can sort of like develop it into a wider topic. This is Sicha Tes Zayin. Rabbi says as follows: Da, you should know. Sheyacholin litzoik bekol dmama daka. A person can scream with utter silence. Bitzeoko gdoyle me'od. You know, a great scream. V'lo yishma shum adam klal, and no person will hear it all. Ki eina motzi shum kol klal, because a person, you're not emitting any sound at all. Rakatzaoko bekol dmama daka. The scream is on a very, very thin and utter silence. V'zeh yuchal kol adam, and this is something that every person is capable of. And now it is explained. What does it mean? Dehainu, meaning, sheitzayar b'machshavtei, paint it in your thought. Hatzaoko, just paint the scream in your thought. V'yichnes kol hatzaoko b'machshava, and put the sound of the scream, of the cry, in your thought. V'yitzar b'daitoi, and imagine and draw and paint in your mind kol hatzaoko mamash, the actual cry, the actual imanigun, with the tune, with the music, with the tune. Kederech shetzoaken, like people cry. V'yichnos b'zeh, and get into it. At sheyitzak mamash, then you're mamash screaming. B'vchinas kol dmama daka, a sound of a silence, very, very utter silence. V'lo yishma v'shum adam lo yishma klal, and no person will hear you. Now Rabbeinu says something very interesting. He says, Ki be'emes eino tzir klal. It's really not an imagination. Rak tza'oko mamash, this is a real scream. And he explains, Ki yesh simponot bareya, because there are pipes in the lung. Shimsham yitzeko. That's where the voice, where the sound comes out. And he says, however, v'yesh gam simpoinos dakim, there is very like subtle, like what they call meridians, as it were, that comes from the lung to the brain. Valken yicholim leachnis hakoil derech hasimpoinos dakim. You can actually insert the voice through these very, very fine, subtle channels, ha'ilchim elamoyach, that go all the way to the brain. Ad sheyitzak mamash b'moicha, you are actually screaming in your mind. How? Al idei mashamitzayir b'machshavtei kol hatzahoko mamash. By painting, by sculpting in your brain, in your machshava, you imagine the actual sound of the scream. Shebezeh, I don't think that this works, Avram. So whoever it is that does it, should probably undo it. שבזהו מכניס כל הצעוק על המוח. With this, you actually insert the screaming into your brain by imagining in your, by reproducing in your thought the actual voice of the scream. This is how you insert the scream into the mind. ויוכל לעמוד בין כמה בני אדם, and you'll be able to stand amongst a few people, ויצעק מאוהד, and you'll be screaming your head off. ושום אדם לא ישמע כנ"ל, nobody's going to hear it. And he says, ולפעמים, and sometimes יכול להישמט מזה איזה קול דק, sometimes can come out of it a very, very thin sound, שיהיה נשמע, that will be heard. Why? כי מחמת שנכנס הקול, because the sound went through these channels to the mind, of the channels of the mind, it goes into the mind. יוכל להישמט לפעמים, sometimes can slip, that the sound will come through the channels that actually bring out the sound, through your voice, vocal cords. אבל הוא בדקוס גדול, but it's very, very thin sound. And now Rabbeinu says another thing about it. It says, uvelo diber, that when you're just screaming, if you just imagine a scream, below diber, without saying anything, when you're not actually saying anything, you're not screaming any words, it's just a scream of a voice of a scream, it's easier to scream that way. Because when you're actually trying to produce speech, it's much more difficult to grab the voice into the thought and not let it come out through your throat. Below diber, but without speaking, it is easier. It means that when you're actually saying words in your scream, it's instinctually, looking for a way to slip through to the regular channels that screaming comes out. And that's the reason why it can slip. When you're not actually keeping your mind focused on just screaming in your head, not screaming with your voice. So when you get so much into it, it might very well be that the sound will slip through your throat. There are quite a few in Yonim. Okay, so somebody is waiting. Let's see who it is that is waiting. I don't see anybody waiting. Hold on, let me just. Okay, we'll start again. All right. I apologize for the interruption. So basically what we're talking about the fact that it seems that Rabbeinu is saying here a technical, a technical description, a technique. Listen, you want to scream, you don't have to just have your neighbors call your landlord and evict you because they have a Tasmanian devil screaming in the next apartment. So you can do it silently in your own mind. But there's and it is definitely a technical description. He says that you can do it in your mind. And he says that you can do it. He says this is an actual screaming. This is not a virtual screaming. It is an actual screaming. To the point that sometimes it can slip out, and come out as a tiny sound. And it goes even further in telling you how actual it is, subvocal activity. The vocal cords are actually, this is, Hillel is telling us, this is called subvocal activity. So there we go. So what we have here is that Rabbeinu is also speaking about the fact that it is easier to do without words. For those who just came aboard, or are coming aboard, we're talking about voiceless screaming. Rabbeinu describes in Sichos Haran number 16 that the person can scream without sound in his mind by reconstructing the scream in his mind. And when this is done, Rabbeinu says that this is not an imaginary screaming, this is an actual screaming. So we learn from this a few things. First of all, when we kept on saying that a person needs to scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is extremely important, an extremely important part of the Hisbodedus, of the communication with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We said that with this, you circumvent the intellect. Screaming is an expression of will. Just pure volition, pure will. You don't think exactly how to do it and how not to do it. What should I say? How should I say it? The problem with the intellect is that it comes in knowing everything. It not only knows what you can do, it also knows what you can't do. I say knows, quote unquote knows. It doesn't know. But it has preconceived notions. It is prejudiced. This I'm not going to scream about. It's not going to help anyhow. It'll never happen to me. Because Baruch's never going to give this to me. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. What am I kidding? And then I have, I never get what it is that I ask. Just so it's all these things. The mind, the intellect, sort of like pre-programs everything that goes through it in this kind of a symbol language. You don't even it's not a cognitive process. It's just the way you are when you speak. Either you're forceful or you're not forceful, or you're meek, or you're this, or you're that, whatever. This is when things go through the filters of your intellect. When it goes through the filters of your intellect, it goes through the filters of what we call the filters of your story. You are talking from your story. The reason why we do it is because, and we find it difficult to scream, we think that screaming it's embarrassing, first of all. It's disrespectful. Why am I screaming at the Kadosh Baruch Hu? I mean, Kadosh Baruch Hu knows everything, and he knows what's good for me. In other words, we have a whole set of, just open up the can and use and ready to eat apicorsis terutzim that tell us we have to why we have to not scream, why we shouldn't scream. Screaming, it's so primitive, and it's so. I mean, maybe it's not even good for me. Then people have this like, Ribono Shel Olam, if it's good for me, give it to me. If it's not good for me, don't give it to me. I don't know if are you familiar with these kind of mind games that people that are talking to Kodesh Baruch Hu tend to play with themselves? What do you think? Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't know this. You have to start, playing games with him. If it's good for me, give me. Not good for me. You think that you're being really firm. You're being really religious. Here, I trust the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Something. I just want whatever it is that you want. If you don't want to give it to me, it's fine. If it's not good for me, it's fine. Just don't give it to me. Actually, what you're doing is you're shaking in your boots. You just don't believe the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to give it to you. Again, like nobody ever looked at you in the past, and nobody's looking at you now, and everybody is rejecting you, and everybody is not looking at you. So you're already giving the Kadosh Baruch Hu a hatch out. You're giving the Kadosh Baruch Hu a built-in out to say no in a mechubadik way, in a respectful way. In other words, that will take away from you that feeling of, something, I just went all in, and he turned me down again. Can't believe this. This is too much of an emotional risk. The answer is you just go all in. You just go all in. You don't need to, yeah, but when am I going to scream? Where am I going to scream? The neighbors are going to hear me. Well, I'm going to scream. You don't need to go anywhere. You can stay together with people around you, and you can scream without sound. It's fine. There's no problem. And it's a real scream. It's a real scream. And Rabbeinu tells us also that not only is it a real scream, but it's easier to do if you're not saying any words, which means there's tremendous value in just screaming without saying any words. Reb Nosson speaks about this. And he says that that's really the secret, or one of the secrets, of Kiyas Shofar and Rosh Hashanah. It says there's so many layers in our calling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in our screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So many fake cries. So many, how should I say it? falsehoods, mitigating reasonings, manipulations. There's a lot of falsehood when we speak. But Reb Nosson explains that at the very core of our cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is a nakuda of truth, of which is completely clean. At the very core. This is very reminiscent, when a person learns Kabbalah, that in the very middle, the very core, when you look at the Sefirot as what they call Sefirot de Yosher, from top to bottom, not the cycles, the circles, that the very inside, the center of all the Sefirot is Or Ein Sof, is the light of infinity. Above it, like an electrical cord, that the very core you have the copper wire, or whatever wire there is that delivers the juice, that delivers the electricity. And it's covered with insulations and isolations, and another, and the more raw the power, the more, obviously the power is raw, that it has to be covered and covered and covered and covered. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know. I mean, we have Moshe Ellis here. He could probably explain it to us. How come that it's dafka in the very, very high wires, that the wires are so, high voltage, that the wires are so thin. That otherwise they would have to be as thick as a house, but anyhow, but whatever it is that at the very center of your call, the very center of your screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is this voice, which is Kuloi Emes. It's total, unmitigated truth. Because it's so easy to come and to speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu and to feel, I didn't speak about a single nakudas, even one point completely. I didn't say even one thing that I wanted to say from beginning to end. I'm supposed to, talk about my health situation, my financial situation, my children, my this, my that, whatever it is. And besides all these outside things, there's the inside things. What's going on with me, where my mind is, is traveling, and my fears and my anxieties and my fear of losing control and fear of being humiliated, whatever it is going on inside me that makes me do things that I really should not be doing. And I have to talk about them to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And so you come to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and first of all, you can't say anything. And you feel very guilty because you have to start out by saying thank you. And the truth may be that you don't want to say anything at all, let alone say thank you. It's not chas v'chalila that you don't say HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's just like, all right already, coming like, I'm not in the mood now of saying thank you. I got things bothering me or whatever it is. And my heart is crusted, is encrusted with all kinds of thick, layers on it. I can't even talk about the stuff that I want to talk about. So you can very easily pass an hour of talking to Kodesh Baruch Hu. I mean, it's not very easy to pass an hour. I mean, it's if your heart does not open, it's extremely hard to pass the hour. You know, you get sidetracked by voices, by sounds on the outside, by various fantasies, your thoughts taking you somewhere else, whatever it is. It's not an easy thing to spend an hour with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. But even when you manage to do that, you know, as much time as you take upon yourself, it's very easy to come out feeling, I, I really didn't talk about what I wanted to talk about. Maybe I mentioned it in a word or two, but I didn't really get into the subject that I really wanted to talk about. And Rabbeinu is telling you that in screaming alone, without even saying words, everything is in there. This is an extremely important point. In that voice that you scream inside your head that nobody can hear outside you, by restructuring, reconstituting, painting, sculpting the scream in your mind. Rebbe Shah, help me in screaming. I feel like sometimes I scream, I can't anymore. Whatever it is that you want to say, you can, even if you have no words to put it in, Arena says it is easier just to do it with the sound alone, with the sound of a scream alone. Rabbeinu says that screaming in Torah and Tefillah, you know, brings about the Makifan inside. When the mind and the heart are clogged, it is easier just to scream and break the barriers. Because when you scream, you need to dig deeper into you and be willing to expose your vulnerabilities to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as if you didn't know them. But trust him on a level that if he will answer the way I want him to answer, or if he won't answer me the way I don't, the way, you know, all those things are in the level of the intellect. And they stop me from screaming, because screaming means I'm going all out. I'm putting everything on 36 red. The whole thing. I'm going on deck by the whole thing. It's total trust. In fact, there are techniques that are based on screaming that totally open up the nefesh, totally open up a person's nefesh. But that's a whole different subject, which I don't know enough about, don't know anything about. But nevertheless, Rabbeinu says, I wanted you to be like animals that are roaring in the forest all night. In other words, Kodesh Baruch Hu wants you to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to relate to Kodesh Baruch Hu on such a fundamental level, such a basic level. And there's yet one more message here, which we spoke about before, but it's worth mentioning again. Rabbeinu talks about screaming in your mind. You know, when you say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, say Kriyat Shema. That's the Yichud. When you say Shema Yisrael, you are calling your attention. You're getting ready. Okay? Hashem Elokeinu Hashem. Chochmah bin Adas. Now the last word is Echad. And that word is built of two words. Ach and Daled. The brother of Daled. Daled is the Shechina. That is Aniyah v'Daled Delesle Migameh v'Lo Klum, the Malchus, that doesn't have anything of its own. Now, the main focus that the Tikkun Zohar speaks about Echad and the word Daled is that the word Daled has a little chupchik, a little dot at the back on the top that makes it a Daled. If you were to remove that little bump, that little nub at the top, in the back top of the Daled, it would be a Resh. The difference in the word between with the nub and without the nub could not be more dramatic. With it, it's Echad. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, everything is one. Without it, Chas v'Chalil, it's Acher. It's Avodah Zarah. It's all this little chupchik. What does it mean? What's demanded of you when you're saying Shema Yisrael is to focus on your emunah and be positive. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. You know, secular people pride themselves on being skeptics. You know, I like to ask questions. Wow, man, you're like so deep. It's baloney. They're just lazy. They want to remain in this wishy-washy kind of ambivalence without making any commitment to Echad, to one. Well, I don't know, what is this, and that, and what about this, and what about that, and it's just a person, what is a tzaddik? Tikkun Zohar says, tzaddik is that nub at the back of the Daled of Echad of Shema Yisrael. This is what the tzaddik is. The call of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, means a commitment to committing. Shema Yisrael, prepare yourself. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem, and then Echad, you scream for one. You scream for the one. And that one, Rabbeinu's Miramas in this particular Sicha, is not outside. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is not outside you, that you are negotiating with. Yes, you have to use words. Yes, there is a mila to using graceful words. This is one of the biggest mysteries in creation, that poetry works, that you are able to convince HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's ridiculous. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. What do you mean I can't convince him? It's a relationship. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is inside your head. He understands you. He understands you the way no one understands you. When you feel that you can't take it, it's not because things are bad, it's because you are dissociated from your true self. The way to break the barrier is through screaming. Even if you're just screaming inside your head, Kodesh Baruch Hu hears you. Kodesh Baruch Hu accepts it. It's never, whoa, now I have to come to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and whoa, I have to start telling him what I did, what I didn't do, and what I can do, what I cannot do. And Kodesh Baruch Hu is inside your head. And there is definitely a nakuda that you can't overcome, and you need to break through the barriers, and you need to call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you can go to the feld, if you can actually scream, it's a gewalt. But if you can't do it, you can do it in your own room. You can put a talus over you, or you can put a towel over you. You can put a blanket over you. That's what the Melech used to do. And scream, paint, imagine the scream with all the sound, and talk to him. That's the kind of intimacy that you need to have with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem should help us all, that we should take the step. We should, like, step up to the plate, as it were, and scream. Don't be afraid Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to turn me down. I go, if a Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to turn me down, he knows why he's doing this. I trust him. I'm afraid from him turning me down is because I don't trust him. Not because I don't trust him, that he knows what's better. I don't trust him that he cares enough about me. That's where the problem is. I know he knows better, but I don't feel like he understands me. I don't feel like he really cares about me. He just knows better. But what about me? What about what I want? What about my feelings? What about scream, scream, scream? Which Baruch will take care of you. Don't worry about it. Even if it's not in this incarnation, it'll be the next one. If you scream, it'll be in this one. But Simsof HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of all your debts. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of all your debts, whether in this Gilgal, the next Gilgal, whatever it is, don't worry about it. You scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu about it. Hashem should help us all. B'ezrat Hashem, Monday night, B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue with Sipurei Maisius, and hopefully, we will all be able to scream out, whether out loud, whether inside. Establish this relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu and trust Him with everything. Try it tonight. Try it tonight. Scream tonight. Happy screaming to everybody.